What goes around comes around sometimes, or rather, life is a circle here on the Calcio Guys. Adriano, Nicholas, We're joined this week by Berto from All Juve Cast. Berto, how's it going?
Good, man. Good, man. Thank you guys, as always, for having me on. We were talking about trying to remember the last time I was on. It's been too long. So thank you for the invite. It's much appreciated. And I look forward to this, man.
Us too, and there's a lot to talk about this week. Obviously, I think it's perfect timing to talk about Juve uh, after the 2-2 draw yesterday against Atalanta. But just want to start and say, Adriano remembers this. Back when we started the podcast, it was Allegri's last season in his first stint, 2018, 2019. And I went on a rant saying, his play style was too stale. It's like when you leave a box of cookies in the pantry, it's too stale.
They were on sale, though. They were on sale.
The cookies were on
Every
sale.
Italian knows if it's only on sale, we buy. So just to put that out there.
But I don't think I'll go on the rant this time. But it seems like things are starting to repeat itself for Juve's Allegri's Juve, and that it seems like things are coming to a breaking point. But we gotta. I mean, unless you want to start right into that stuff, Berto, or you just want to start with the game. What do you want to do?
Oh, either way, man, I'm good. You lead the way, and I'm with you. Whatever you want to kick off with.
Let's keep our list. Yeah. Let's keep our listeners on their toes. 2-2 Atalanta. It feels like every time we play Atalanta, it's always a draw or like a 1-0 win. They're a good team. I mean, in reality, there's no shame in losing in tying to Atalanta, but it's a game that you still got to have at home. You score 2 goals. You can't defensively. You can't let in those 2 goals. I mean, what do you make of it, Berto?
You're right. In the grand scheme of things, a draw to Atalanta 2-2 is not the be-all, end-all. But just like Max, just like these players, it's a body of work. And when you look at the body of work and you look at this last run, 6 points out of a possible 21, it's just simply inexcusable, right? The game itself, statistically, Juventus did everything to win that game. We had 15 opportunities, 4 big chances created. Atalanta had 0 big chances created, 3 shots on target all game, bagged 2 goals. For everybody that loves the stats, XG, Atalanta had a 0.48 XG. We were 1.5 or some whatever. All the stats were there. Juve did everything to win that game. But what the stats don't show is the approach. Yeah. And number one, the first half was wasted, in my opinion. Atalanta seemed happy, which I was surprised with, to give us the ball for like almost the entire opening 30 minutes. And we had no energy, no drive, like nothing. No, like, let's punch them in the face. And if they're going to give us a ball, let's get after it. Nothing. And then in the second half, it was better. But you fight hard. You press them. You do everything right to get back to 2-1. And then you drop right off again. And the goal that we allowed was completely ridiculous. It was a brutal goal to give up to go 2-2 again. But that's the stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheets. And I don't know if Max is ever going to change from that. And that's the biggest question around him right now is that approach kind of done and toasted? Like, for me, he's fallen back on a defense that can't be trusted over these past 6 games. It's the first time in 30 years we've allowed 2 goals in 4 games in a row. Like, it just, you can't trust this defense anymore. And the goals that we've allowed over this stretch are avoidable. And they're brutal goals for a strong defense, which we're supposed to be. And that's his claim to fame. It's been dusted and it's gone. And now he doesn't have anything else in his pocket. It was all strong defense and that's gone. It's brutal.
So, Berto, do you, like, this game is what it is, 2-2. You broke it down perfectly. People that watched the game, people that didn't, I mean, they really probably maybe got a better sense of what the game was. But like Nick said, I think, I don't know, Atalanta's always kind of had you guys' number. I don't know why it is. The approach, the mentality, the tactics. For me, looking as an outsider, and I'm dodging two Juventini on the show tonight, guys. So just to put that out there, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle tonight. Johnny's not here tonight, so I have to do my best to carry the opposition point of view, I guess. But looking on the outside in, I think it's beyond stale. These tactics, this mentality, and I guess my overall question is like, does this only fall on Allegri, or does this fall on other pieces, management, the players themselves? Like, kind of like, where do you put? Again, blame is a big word. We don't always like to say, okay, yeah, it's only this person's fault, because I think, for me at least, it's a collective. It also does start from the top. So I just kind of want to hear your points of view on maybe just even this current struggle, or just this, I guess, quote unquote, new Juve that we've been seeing that isn't of the years of the past. Kind of, where do you kind of put your finger onto what the overall issues are?
It's all of them. It really is. Everybody's got their own opinion, and everybody puts more weight on one phase out of this club. But to be honest, it's everybody. 3 years ago, when Max Allegri took over this team, we were 342 million euro in debt. Okay. We're currently at 123 million euro in debt. We're finding out that it's probably going to be the season of 25-26 when we will be at a break-even point. That's if everything goes according to plan. Okay, with Champions League and advancing, out of the group stage, maybe winning a knockout. So it's been tight at the top. This build that everybody's talking about, it hasn't even started for me. Because if you're in a build, and everybody wants to tie it to Max's first year, if you're in a build and you're going from season 2 to season 3 of a build, do you think that this team would have only added property they already had in Cambiaso Caviglia and then just pick up Timothy Weah for 12 million euros? Does that sound like year 2 to 3 of a build? It isn't. No. So, and I feel for this guy, because I feel for Max a little bit, because I see holes all over the place with the roster. Not so much like everybody says the wages, throw the wages out the window, because we know previous management sign guys to awful deals. Sandro's making 6.5 million euros. Rabiot's getting paid a ton for a workhorse. He's making money of like a skilled guy. It's too much, right? So they've kind of lost their way and not really given Max. They haven't been able to give Max enough, in my opinion. The players absolutely have to start taking accountability, because it's ridiculous. If you look at the same system, same setup that everybody wants to shoot down, 3-5-2. We played it last year. We tried 3 formations last year. We settled on 3-5-2 because it was the best for the group. Again, going back to the team from last summer to this year, they only added 3 players. It's the same lineup pretty much. So if guys like Kostic, Rabiot having his best season last season, okay? These guys all playing in this system. Danilo was consistent last season. If these guys can't hold consistency in the same system from one year to the next, that's not on the coach for me. Rabiot's on 1 good year out of like 4, out of 5. Okay. Kostic, abysmal this year. Danilo, not consistent. Gatti, no consistency. Chiesa and Vlahovic, physical problems. Big drought throughout the season. Locatelli. How long do I have to hear about being out of position when you're playing in the same spot for 3 years in a row? Figure it out. If you're a baller, figure it out. So for me, the players, absolutely zero consistency. And I think we found out in that Atalanta game a little bit that, you know what? The alternatives aren't necessarily that great either. And we're trying to bank on young guys when they shouldn't be looked at that as the saviors. For me, the key guys in this group have not been able to hold any type of consistency whatsoever. And they need to answer to that themselves. But for Allegri, his faults are that he has died on this hill for a guy like Kostic. He has died on this hill for Rabiot, even through struggles and ghosting through games. He's died on the hill for a lot of guys, and they haven't been rewarding him. But the issue with him is you've got to get results. But you know what? It may not necessarily come if you put Illing Jr. out there, if you put Miretti, who has had a million opportunities, he's done nothing. If you put Caviglia in there, it's not, people think like that's going to be it. It's going to change. You got to play these guys. You do have to play these guys, but to get the best out of your vets who haven't been pulling their weight, in my opinion. I have no problem with the young guys, but we shouldn't be looking at 20-year-olds ever as saviors at Juventus. Just period. You shouldn't. Max Allegri has chosen his guys to kind of die on the hill with. It is what it is. For me, formation, set up all this, tactics. The Napoli game, tactics didn't really change. The only thing that changed was the profiles in the middle, Miretti and Alcaraz, and we saw a completely different style, a different game, different connections between the players because you have guys that play a different style.
Yeah.
Rabiot, he's not going to thread passes. He doesn't try through balls. He doesn't have the vision to lob a ball over the top for somebody running into space. Like, he's not that guy. McKennie is a perfect example for me of what we're lacking across the board in the roster, because that guy lacks technique, but he makes up for it in effort. Work rate is always there, consistent. And I can't even say that all the guys get that, to be honest. So if we're not getting it from all our guys, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. Like, but Max, he's in the seat that bears the most weight, and you can't go through a spell of 6 points out of 21. You can't go from a title fight
And
to
try to be
like
serious.
relegation form. So either the message is stale too, and these guys aren't reacting, and he can't turn it around. For me, you got to make a change there too. But the players, they should have been read the riot act about 2 weeks ago, and they should be playing for their jobs right now.
You bring up, the 20-year-olds, and that's all, to be honest, that's one thing I've kind of struggled with too, because some of these guys, sure, they could have promising futures, but they're just not there at the Serie level, at the Juventus level. One guy like Moretti, we had Anthony on last year, and one thing that he said that always stuck with me, he needs to eat a few more panini, because you saw that in the Atalanta game. He loses a lot of balls. He's very weak. He's talented. There's no question the talent's there. It's just he struggles. And my question is more, do you think Allegri's kind of forced to play these youngers? Not necessarily by management. It's like, hey, look, you need to play these youngers because we're going to sell them in the future. Or is it more like, hey, look, we're out of money. We can't buy players. This is what you got. Do you think he's kind of forced in that way?
I would have to kind of answer the question with another question. Do you think that when Agnelli said the game plan is to integrate 8 guys from next gen every year is the actual long-term plan for Juventus?
Absolutely not. That's not sustainable. You can't.
And that would be absolutely ridiculous, and for me, it's not. What I see out of next gen is it's great. It's brilliant. Okay. But there should really only be 1, maybe 2 that we should be talking about getting integrated annually. The rest of them I see as bargaining chips, going out on loans, trying to find out what you have there. And the ones that are of the upper echelon should be integrated into the team. But this youth project thing that they were always pushing and trying to go through, for me, it's all about the sustainability part of the project in the future. And that's having these talents that you continuously bring income from. But I don't think it's what we're going to be building our team for. And a lot of fans are, have bought in and said like, oh yeah, no, we're going young. Why do we have Max? Whatever. If we go young right now, this roster for me is tipping the scale on young. We're too young. You don't have a leader. You don't have true leadership, true guys, generals on the pitch. And if you want to put all your eggs in a basket with Sule and Yildiz and Vlahovic as your trident next season, that's not winning a Scudetto, guys. I'm sorry to say, I can't see it happening. He's got so much room to grow. And Sule, for me, I still need to see him do it for us before I have that kind of faith. Like, it just, his numbers with Frosinone for me are inflated through PKs, and 4 out of his goals are against Cagliari. Like, I need to see more against top teams. He had a good game against Milan. That's it. So for me to just bank on all these young guys, I'm not there yet. I think Yildiz is one we can hang on to, obviously. Hoyson, I think, should come back and be integrated into the team next year, play rotationally. Outside of that, I can't see Caviglia sticking around. I can't see Miretti. Really, Miretti needs a loan before we can even decide. But he's had enough opportunities that for me, that's not on a coach. And everybody wants to talk about this position thing. I'm kind of not buying into the whole positional thing and out of position, whatever. I just don't buy into it, guys. I really don't. We're not asking, players to do anything completely out of their wheelhouse. People are acting like we're asking Chiesa to play as a target man with his back to goal. We're not doing that. Like, from left wing to second striker is not the be all end all. And again, going back to the Napoli game, it just changed with a couple of different roles. But Alcaraz and Miretti, their own problems and issues came up in that game. But if you have that type of mind, that type of vision in this midfield with the two Metsalas, our game, our style, everything changes completely. I just think we're a little bit hindered in the roles. I think even a guy like Fagioli, if he didn't get into the whole gambling thing, would have made a difference this season. I even think he would have made a difference in the middle. We're scrambling. We had to get a young guy from the second tier in England to come in and play some goddamn through balls out of the midfield and stop Chiesa from dropping back into the middle. That should say it all about these players. Yes, against Atalanta, we needed a fullback to come into the midfield and show these fucking these midfielders how to move the ball and how to play in the middle and attack space. That says it all, boys. Like, I think we're lacking roles. Our roster in general, it's not terrible. It's not like it's the worst roster in the league, but you still have to have all your roles fulfilled, right? And that's how I look at it. We're not fulfilling all the roles that we need.
I mean, it's just not a dig at Juve fans, but I think obviously Juventini have been spoiled with what they had in the past, right? You said talk about leaders, you talk about role players, you talk about players that play for their shirt. You guys, like most of the upper teams in the league, the Milans, Inters, and the Juventus of the world, we were spoiled with having those types of players in those roles to keep those younger guys in check. I think just to kind of bounce off to what you were saying, Berto, I mean, I think a balance is key. I mean, the young stuff I do like to an extent. When you put all your eggs in that basket, probably not, but you need that healthy balance. You can't just go all veterans, or you can't just go all youth. You have to have that in between where it kind of meshes well. Again, you're talking about like even like for me, like Juve, it's like there's like you again spoiled with who you had a captain for the many years. Like, I don't even see a captain on the field in my eyes for you guys. And again, this is no dig or whatever. It's just my honest opinion. I don't see a leader that is going to say, "Hey, I'm going to put you in check because you didn't do this," or "I'm going to hold you accountable." For me, it starts with that. It starts with the mentality being weak. I think Berto, again, for me, I love to see when the Juventini downfall. But if I'm being an honest sports fan of the league, I mean, we kind of have to call a spade a spade. I mean, this is not when you speak about Juve, this is not Juve, right? It's far from that. Again, are we basing that off because, again, like I said, we were spoiled as fans of the mid 2000s Milans, the tens of Juve, like, you know what I mean? Like, we were kind of spoiled with all that. Do you break it down as like I am, in the sense of that it is like a mentality thing? Because like you said, on paper, this roster is not the best, but it's also not terrible either on paper. And I think obviously you can see there should be results that should have come, here and there throughout, sprinkled into the season. But is this a mentality thing in your eyes, or is this just, I don't know, like just overall turmoil, and this is kind of just like these final straws of this marriage of an Allegri and a Juve, and some of these players maybe are not there, and maybe next year, sorry. So I don't know kind of where you fall on that aspect.
I feel like it absolutely is the mentality. Absolutely. I mean, how else do you go from what,
Because the
5
skill
weeks
is
ago?
there. The skill is there for certain players. Like Nick, for example, spoke of, and I don't want to cut you off, but Nick spoke about Vlahovic last week, right? And had a bit of a say about him. And he's a very, in my opinion, too, and I will have to agree, the talent is there. Obviously, he's talented enough, but mentality, it's kind of hinders him. Chiesa, maybe that's a different story. We can maybe kind of put that into a different question later in the show, but it's mentality. Like, you have to have that killer instinct, and if you don't have that as a number 9 in this league, I'm sorry, guys. Where are you going? You might as well play pickup here somewhere and just shoot the ball to your friends, and it'll be Calcio Guys FC. Like, that's not where we're at here. So again,
No.
I think it's mentality, and I'm glad that you agree.
It absolutely is. I mean, how else do you go from 5-6 weeks ago to being 1 point up on Inter or whatever, and then now just like, what are we, 18 behind? Like,
yeah, something like that.
It's absurd. It's absurd. After a 1-1 draw to Empoli, that's how you're going to crumble, like just like that. And then the lower relegation sides that you're playing, you can't pull out of it. Like, you can't get your heads together to start rallying the points here. Like, Max Allegri has always talked about top 4 this season, always top 4. But there was a point where he started getting into it with Inter, and he started firing little shots at Marotta there, and they were going back and forth. For me, that's right around the time this team, this roster started to believe, because they started talking about a title. They started talking about, let's see what happens. We're in good form. Let's see if we can keep it running. We want to make that push. We want to make that fight.
Yeah.
That was coming from players. Then all of a sudden, you have this slip up at Empoli. Then you lose to Inter. And then all of a sudden, it's flat. It's just flat. And like I said, when a guy that you shop around all summer, Weston McKennie, is one of 2 guys, maybe 3, you'll say, that have at least consistently brought the best version of themselves game in, game out, that speaks volumes about this roster. Like, he's the guy we were shopping out all summer, and he's the one being our best player this season. Bremer next to him for consistency and play. And then outside of that, who else? Maybe Tech for consistency. But like, ever since what happened earlier, but even there's some moments. That's it. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. So the young guys, like, that's their own thing, and I give them a lot of leash because they're young, but these key guys, where are all our key guys that we can't bank on? You can't bank on any of it. It's mentality, 100%. Now, where you want to say the mentality comes from, this is where fans start to argue, because they say that comes from the manager. It's the manager's duty to get these guys ready, game in, game out, whatnot. But in the same token, if you are a player and you have reached the standard in this setup, in this style, everything's the same, it's up to you. It's up to you to keep yourself at that level. Once you show the standard and we know you can do it, what is this nonsense about different setup, different formation? No, you've done it. You've been at the level we require of you It is up to you to keep yourself there and keep yourself accountable. Accountability. I've only seen that from like 2, maybe 3 players this season. Locatelli called himself out. I need to do more. Whatever. I'm still waiting for him to do more, but he said I need to do more. Okay. Rabiot. It is us on the pitch. We need to get the job done. Danilo. I am far from my best and consistent. Thankfully, my teammates have made up for me. He still hasn't gotten it together. Vlahovic goes out and publicly he takes accountability for the misses against Napoli. If I want to be where I need to be burying those chances. Absolutely. But he also called out the mentality and saying we broke at that Empoli game. And for me, tells me everything about this roster. And I say half to 3/4 of these guys don't even realize, I think, in their heads, because they don't play like they're fighting for their jobs. If this was a different Juventus, these guys don't even get a sniff of this club. If we weren't in such a financial situation, pressing like that, these guys wouldn't even be at this fucking club. And that's why
never mind.
And that's why when a guy like Fagioli does what he did, I said the thing with this kid is he doesn't even maybe realize that in a different Juventus, they would have sent him packing the second they found out. See you later. But right now, we can't. And that's the sad thing, is that the club is so handcuffed, we almost can't keep our spine. It's not the Juventus of old. It has a lot of work. The term project in general means under construction. Juve is under construction, very much so. Very much so. And it's everything. But Max, you just can't keep hitting this stone wall year in, year out, where you have to recreate or renew an identity. You can't keep doing that. So for that, he does have to answer the toll there.
The call. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And Nick, I know you have something to add just quickly on that. Is it a regret bringing Allegri back at all? I know regret's a big word, guys, but do you see it? Do you see it at all in that way, or like has Allegri set you guys more back than maybe you would have been if you would have signed another manager? I know it's a lot of what ifs too, but because you knew what you were getting with Allegri. He's shown, like, his CV. It's on display. We know what his CV is. There's no hiding what Allegri does, what he does to a team, how he impacts a team, positively, negatively, both ways. We're not saying it's only negative, but because guys, this guy's amassed over 1,000 points in Serie A. Like, this is no guy off the corner in your Sunday league that's showing up on the touchline. No, so you got to give him that. But again, this is 2024. This is not 2014. You know what I'm saying? So, again, it's a lot of what ifs. We were speaking, even a bit last week about the Motta rumors, right? Motta is the next coming of Jesus Christ. It seems to be, like, from all of cultural Twitter, even though I kind of want to pump the brakes on that myself. We spoke about it last week, so I don't want to maybe get into that now, but just the whole, like, Allegri thing, like, were you already on, like, the Allegri out bus? Were you Allegri in? Like, I know that's a big thing in Juve world. Just where do you kind of fall on? Has he set you back? Essentially, is the original question.
Well, let's get Nick in here. Do you feel regrets?
Because at the time when you guys brought him
it's
in,
tough.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what was another option?
I think I have a different. I think I have and I brought this up probably about a month ago on our show, but I have a kind of different view as far as his return. But I'm curious to see if Nick, how you feel about, like, is there regrets there?
I think Pirlo was unjustly fired. I think, what he did for that season was good. Considering
the circumstances
and everything. He got fired for a season that was better than Allegri's first season. I think that was very frustrating. And sure, Pirlo was the first coach to not win a Scudetto. We won 9 straight, and then he comes in, we don't win. But it was clear from the start that they, Allegri was their guy. And one thing I've said on the podcast multiple times is that I think Allegri was the right guy to take Juve through last season, through all the struggles from last season. With all the punishment, with all the financial stuff. I don't think Pirlo would have survived that. I think he's been good. Obviously hindsight is 2020, and considering what the club as a whole went through, I don't think with any other coach we wouldn't be winning in the Scudetto this season. Simple as that.
I would agree.
We're not at a level right now to win the Scudetto. Is it a regret? That's tough to say. I personally think, as I said at the top, it feels like it's coming to an end. I've been on the train. If a lot of people are calling Allegri out now, you're not going to fire the guy now. Juve's not in a position to fire him now. Wait till the season is done. Sit down with them. Sit down with the players. See what they say, and make that move in the summer. It doesn't need to be so dramatic. There's 10 games left.
Yeah,
they're going to fight. Sure, they might crumble and finish fourth. As long as they finish the top four, as long as they make Champions League, you still got Coppa Italia. Fight for that Coppa Italia. I want that trophy. It's been 3 long years since that last trophy.
Yeah.
But make any changes in the summer.
Yeah. When I go back to the Pirlo thing, like, while I agree, he didn't necessarily deserve to be sacked, I also feel he should have never been hired in the first place. Because to me, if you're on a 9-year straight reign, okay, the Scudetto, you bring in a guy for his first job as coach.
He didn't even have his coaching license. It was like he was getting the last minute there.
It's insane. And I think when you stop and think about this and you actually remove the fact that it's Andrea Pirlo, if you take that persona away from that and you just stop and think about it, Juve hired a rookie manager for his first job while carrying the title for 9 straight seasons. It's insane. He should have never had the position in the first place. The regret thing with Allegri, I don't think so, because I don't think there's any other manager that rides through the period we just did. I don't see any other guy. Any other guy that they would have want, I think, would have been out. Like, this gig is not bringing me players I want. And this is another thing. While everybody says, well, he wanted this guy, he wanted that guy, like these were his guys. There's a difference between what you want and what you can have. There's a big difference there. I don't think Allegri was smashing doors down to go out and bring in Paredes. Like, I don't think he was breaking the doors down as this is my guy. Like, it's all you can afford. There's a big difference. You bring in Pogba, you bring in Di Maria because they're on free transfers. Di Maria treated it like a vacation spot as soon as the World Cup ended. He didn't care. Pogba, is the guy even fit? He's been out on with the dope things. He's still even fit yet? Like, these are things that are out of this guy's hands, and it's different between what you want and what you can have. And we get so fired up because we're so passionate and we all want the same thing, Juve to succeed and to thrive, but we can't lose context. I'm going to look back at this period and actually be thankful Max held it together somewhat, because this is not a build. This is a sustain moment for Juventus. Just don't fall off the wagon until we get the finances right. That is what the true project was. They're feeding us something else. This is what the project has been all along. It's just keep it together. And as far as another coach, and you're talking about Malta and whatever, whatever you guys want to get into, whatnot. But going back through this period, I think when the dust settles and everything, everyone will realize that's probably the right guy to take this one on. Because, my God,
Mata?
Put yourself in that guy's shoes when the
You're
board
talking about Mata? You're talking about Mata?
Like Allegri.
Okay.
When the dust settles, I think we'll all agree this was the right guy for that period of time, because
Probably.
Put yourself in his shoes. The board completely gets wiped out and leaves. You're talking about a scandal you have nothing to do with, and you are the face day in, day out, meeting it head on with the media. Nobody else was around but Max Allegri. So while I agree the time has come, it's time to move on. I'm actually thankful it was this guy because I don't think anybody else sticks around.
He did the best with the cards he was dealt.
Oh, it's been anything but a normal ride these past, like it just anything but normal. But again, you can't keep losing identity year in, year out and needing these pickups from ground zero. You reach ground zero every single year. The first year, okay, we'll give it to you. Second year, points total, all this, deduction, whatever. Okay. But third year, again, hitting ground zero, hitting rock bottom. And the biggest thing, the defense. That's your claim to fame. Now you don't even have that.
Yeah, terrible.
You've got no leg to stand on because now your claim to fame is also dead and has been blown up. So there's nothing left to hang on to because I don't see him being the guy that changes completely his philosophy and beliefs. And it might be too little too late anyways, even if he did.